It's a very strange situation for me to be here because I haven't played here in this hall for over 30, 35, 40 years with the City of Sheffield Youth Orchestra. So this is my old stomping ground. So when walking through the doors, it felt very strange, but it's also very welcoming. It's nice to be back. Sheffield's my hometown. We all know it's built on 7 hills like Rome. So what a great city. The overture to Così fan tutte I actually heard for the first time when I was about 12 in the Merlin Theatre just down the road. My old violin teacher said, "You've got to go and listen to it," and I immediately fell in love with Dorabella and Fiordaligi, because they were kind of really exotic people. And then, of course, later on I joined Opera North and played that opera many, many, many times. And so it's great to be back here. It's a brilliant overture and one that I always enjoy playing. Well, the Beethoven, well, it's a very strange one because I'm a big fan of Beethoven. And what I find particularly kind of moving about it is that he wrote this when he was really quite young. I think he wrote this around 1800, something like that, 1801, 1802, 1802, okay. And around that time, that's when he realized he was really starting to go deaf. And you can follow his deafness through his music. And you'll start to hear very jarring chords. And in fact, if I remember rightly, I think the first reviewers were saying, this piece makes no sense. I think one of them said it sounded like alligators and doves fighting or something. It was something really quite mad, and they didn't like it at all. Of course, to our ears, it's magical, but hearing these accents coming through, which is so typical of Beethoven, it's also quite touching, because that's when he was starting to break the piano strings because he couldn't hear. And as his deafness progressed, of course, he had people knocking on the door, and he couldn't hear them knocking on the door, and then they'd open the door wide and say, "Is he in? We don't want to make him jump." And he'd be there with a wooden stick in his mouth onto the piano and playing. The only way he could hear was through the vibrations through the wooden. It's very tragically sad. But you don't hear that really. That sadness is still full of the joys of spring as a young man, but at the same time, you will start to hear these accents. I've not actually played the Schumann that many times. It is gaining in popularity, but it's a great piece. There is a funny story I've got about it, but it's too long for now. You'll have to come and speak to me in the interval.